right, and give it just a couple seconds. I think you are good to go.
All right, I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Brookfield Board of Finance for March 4th. Member Ricky Ramos is not attending. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Is there any public comment to start our meeting? Any public comment?
I see none.
Hearing none. Let's move on to our business part of this. And last night we discussed that land use was not needed to come, that their budget was pretty sufficient. We'll go over that during the deliberations. So let's do the Department of Public Works.
Yeah, hi. I'm Ralph Tedesco. Thanks for having us tonight. I'm the Director of Public Works. Also logged on are James Doctor, our road supervisor, and Sheldon Kahn, our facility manager, just in case you had any specific questions for them tonight. So with that, we'll continue. Next slide. A couple of years ago, I wrote a mission statement, and basically our mission of the Public Works Department is to provide the citizens of the town of Brookfield with the best possible services in the most efficient and economical way possible. And by that, what I mean is that we try to operate as if we're running a for-profit business, although we're not. And when we look at things and alternatives to doing things, I always try to look at it as if I'm spending my own money. So we try to spend responsibly. And also, many of our employees are Brookfield residents, so they're concerned about doing things wisely and doing things right the first time and getting things done efficiently because they're taxpayers as well. So next slide. The Department of Public Works, in a nutshell, is made of two sub-departments. That would be the Highway Department, as I mentioned, who's supervised. James Doctor is the supervisor of the Highway Department, and the Facilities Department, managed by Sheldon Kahn. Next slide. Getting more specific about our Highway Department. Our Highway Department is made up of a group of 14 individuals with varying degrees of experience. As a matter of fact, two of our employees just recently retired, and we hired 2 new employees this year. So our department is made up of 1 supervisor, 2 mechanics, actually a mechanic and an assistant mechanic, and 11 drivers / laborers who, they're responsible for the snow plowing and for all the maintenance things that we do throughout the year. In addition to that, just some of the things, I just wanted to highlight some of the things we actually do on a regular basis. And those things include installing the new drainage systems for our paving program. While a lot of towns sub out the entire paving program, we actually go in before the contractor and replace all of the drain pipes. So when we do a paving job, you're not only getting a new road, you're getting a complete new construction. We replace pretty much all of the old drain pipe. A lot of the old drain pipe is metal and rusted and deteriorated. So we replace that with new plastic pipe, and we replace the basins if needed, but at a minimum, we replace all of the catch basin tops. So when we pave a road, you're really getting a brand new road. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, we respond to all of the storms. That includes plowing, as well as things like trees coming down, macro bursts, and things like that. Just the general maintenance of the town right-of-way. That includes swales, cutting sight lines during the spring and summer months. Some people forget we're first responders. Many times during a storm, such as the macro burst or a snowstorm, we have to clear the roads for EMS and police to get through. Without us clearing the roads and keeping things safe, it's virtually impossible for EMS or fire or police departments to get to the emergencies they have to respond to. So we're actually the first responder, I like to say, because if we don't clear the roads, there's nobody who's going to get through. And we work very closely with those departments and get along very well with them. We're also responsible for the fleet maintenance. The town has over 100 vehicles that we're responsible for And we are, we have the mechanic and the assistant mechanic who, keep good records and maintain that entire fleet. We just hired a new tree warden. We do all of our tree management services. We hire a bucket to take down trees, but we basically do all of the groundwork. But our tree warden is responsible for identifying dangerous trees and then marking those trees. And then James would schedule those trees in an appropriate manner to take down the most dangerous ones in the shortest amount of time. And other things that we do is the street sign program. We replace all of our street signs on a regular basis and road striping as needed. Next slide. On the facility side, we have 2 full-time employees, Sheldon Kahn, who supervises the department, and Bobby Nakano, who's his maintenance man. And then we have 2 other employees who do some cleaning, usually after hours at night. And because of COVID, we actually hired an additional part-time employee who does extra cleaning until this pandemic is complete. I would imagine that that's going to continue, and hopefully this pandemic will be over sooner than later, because I know we're all getting tired of it. But some of the buildings that we maintain is the town hall, the senior center, the police department, the library, town garage, old town hall, and then other minor structures. There's some sheds and smaller structures around, and we give assistance to other departments as well. So next slide. Other things that we do that you might not be familiar with, but we actually do in-house over here. We provide engineering solutions for public safety. I am also the town engineer, so I respond to other commissions, departments. I'm a regular attendee at the planning commission and give them advice all the time. We manage our storm water drainage system, which is called the MS4 program. And that MS4 program is a fancy name for maintaining our system, but it includes much more than that. It includes yearly inspection. It includes maintenance. It includes testing outfalls. It includes mapping our entire system, which we're in the process of doing. We're digitizing our whole storm water drainage system, so we could have good, accurate maps in-house, so we can maintain facilities a little bit better. It also includes educating the public. We coordinate with the library. They have some published materials over there that anybody could go in and look at. And that includes our stormwater management plan that's on file with the DEEP. The last part of that program includes the elimination, the identification and elimination of pollutants. So if we see during our maintenance program and inspection program, if we see something that may be suspicious, they alert me, and then I'll go out and do an investigation, determine if there are pollutants involved, and then try to track it down to the source and eliminate that pollutant so those pollutants don't get into the environment. We also manage our capital improvements programs for all the town facilities that I previously mentioned. We develop and implement our town pavement management plan, and that includes doing road ratings on a yearly basis. We drive every road and rate every road on a yearly basis, and we post that information online. And that's just part of the information we use to select the roads, because it's not always the worst first that gets done, because there's many techniques involved with maintaining a road system in an efficient way. So it's not just the worst first program. We actually apply techniques and the most cost-effective ways to maintain and repair a road that will save money in the future rather than just throw money at a really bad road. We provide other assistance to other departments as mentioned. We also provide services for refuse and recycling. That includes our brush yard, where hundreds of users come every year. It's actually been getting more busy over the last several years. It just seems like we've been getting more severe storms over the last, I would say 5 years or so, maybe longer than that. And our brush yard has been very busy. And we also are considering expanding that brush yard. We actually, or recycling yard, I should call it, because that's really what it is. And we just added a glass collection container up by the soccer field, just at the entrance of the recycling center, that hopefully people will become familiar with and start using more this year. And then we just respond to just a wide variety of citizen concerns and complaints, some that you would probably never even imagine would come through this office. But Every time I think I've seen everything, I see something else. But with that, next slide. Just to highlight some of the things that are in our 2021, 2022 operating budget. And I just included the budget lines here so you can follow along easier. But in the 303, 1054, 303 line 54103, there's our sand and salt budget. It's been reduced by about $12,000 that year. And part of that is due to we had made a conscious effort to use less salt this year, but I never want to sacrifice safety for the environment. I think safety is our number one priority, and our environment should be our second concern. But I would absolutely never sacrifice safety for the environment. I think people's lives are much more important than that. But with that, we have become more conscious of the salt we put out, and we've made a conscious effort to reduce that. And even though February was a bad month, earlier this year it was kind of light. So really, I anticipate ending the year with a full barn of salt, so we can start off next year with a full barn. So I was able to reduce that by about $12,000. In the 54331 line, tree removal, I actually increased that by about $15,000. I alluded to that a little bit earlier. The brush yards have been getting very, very busy. Our quantities that we're collecting are up. As a matter of fact, people are still coming in with macro burst debris, which I can't believe is over 2 years ago now. And then we were hit with Isaias this year, which just compounded the problem. So I anticipate that our collections will be up. In addition to the emerald ash borer, which is killing some of the trees in town, which has accelerated the life cycle on some of those trees. So we've been busier taking down trees as well. In the 56260 line, we were able to reduce the vehicular fuel line by $38,000, and that was due to favorable pricing. If there was any silver lining to the COVID crisis, for whatever reason, the fuel prices have dropped, and we were able to lock in better prices for the upcoming year, and I believe even into 2022. So that was a good thing. On the building maintenance side, in the 54304 lines, we were reduced building maintenance by $6,000. There was a one-time expenditure in that line. I didn't put the subline there, but in the subline would be the building maintenance line. We reduced it by $6,000, and that was due to a one-time expenditure that was included in that line for security cameras, which that would be for the town garage, which hopefully we will have in before the end of this budget year. Next slide. Let's see, in the 320, the recycling line, 54101, recycling increased by $9,000. That was due to the additional logs and brush processing due to increased volumes that have been coming in, as mentioned. The 54105 hazardous waste line was increased by $3,500. Over 6,000 Brookfield residents actually participated in hazardous waste collection days last year, and we expect that trend to continue. In addition, HRRA has scheduled additional events for the upcoming year, so we anticipate higher usage for those types of events. In the utilities line, 340, all utilities have been adjusted to reflect the current rates. That includes all of our electrical lines, and we have 2 electrical budgets. I think actually Jules has locked in some rates with some electrical providers. So he's more up to speed on the electric. But as far as a difference you may see a new line in there for 56255. That's a propane line. Some of that was included with our number 2 fuel oil. And what we did is we broke out propane because our propane usage is going up. We actually have 3 facilities that use propane now. That would be the senior center, the library, and we have a rental property on Silver Mine Road, 43 Silver Mine Road. So we just felt it would be the right thing to break out that line since propane usage is going up. On the capital side, I'm not going to go through every project because I know you have the list, but I would like to highlight just a couple of things in here. Paving is always going to be my number 1 priority. I just feel like that's just a no-brainer there. That's our primary responsibility, is to maintain the roads. But 2 other things that I would like to bring out is our vehicle replacements, which actually James is going going to do a short presentation about in a few minutes. But last year we never, as you know, we never were able to get that bond referendum going. So there was a vehicle taken out of the budget, and then we requested additional vehicle for this year. I'm talking about plow trucks now, the larger plow trucks. So one vehicle is actually taken out of the budget, and one plow truck remains in the budget. But I would love to get that that second plow truck into the budget. Our fleet is beginning to age, or is always aging. But when I say beginning to age, I mean getting older than we would like it to be. And half of our vehicles are actually over 15 years old. And James will show you some pictures in a few minutes. But because our fleet is aging, you'll see that our vehicle maintenance costs are going up. We're actually running a little bit over budget this year, and I believe it has to do with an aging fleet. But some of it might be just roll of the dice too. But I believe, as you know, it's just normal. As our fleet ages, vehicle maintenance costs will go up. So even though you're going to spend a lot of money for an additional vehicle, in turn, you will be saving some money on the vehicle maintenance side as well. And then one other item I'd like to point out, and I know Yvonne did a really good job of presenting this last night, is the library windows. As you know, the people who have been on the board for a number of years, this is a request that's gone in for several years. And it's something that's really badly needed. I know I say that every year, but if we're going to keep that building, even if it's not going to be a future library, if it's going to be a town building, or even if we determine that we want to sell it, it's going to need new windows. So I would just beg for those windows for the 2021-2022 capital budget season. With that, I guess I'm pretty much done. James could do his vehicle maintenance, show you some pictures of some of our vehicles, and then we could talk about other things if you wish.
All right, I don't know who's running the slides, but can you bring up the vehicles?
Yeah, Marshall will bring that up.
It's a brochure we made up, a couple pictures of what we do. Next slide. There's a list of our vehicles we'd like to replace. Next slide. That's the rest of them that we'd like to replace, and one or two that got cut out at the end there. The 99 International got removed, adjusted by the Board of Selectmen, and the excavator never made it in. So, next slide, please. All right, this is a BK4. It's a 2011 Dodge 2500 pickup. It's got 154,000 miles on it. There's heavy rust underneath. It's time to replace it. Cost of running it and repairing it, U-joints, ball joints. We checked back about over 5 years, and it's probably close to $20,000 put into this vehicle. Next slide. Rust crumbles. Next slide. This is a truck we had in last year's budget. It was put into binding. It was never voted on the referendum, so it was added into this year's budget for replacement. It's a 2003 International tandem dump. Can you go to the next slide? We had some rod issues. We since repaired most of the rust on it. The frame still has some bubbling and rusting on it, and it's time to replace it before we start putting a lot of money into it.
Yeah, I just want to say here, you might not think we wash our vehicles, but we do. After every storm, we wash our vehicles down and we maintain them as best as possible. But just because of the environment they're in, once rust starts, it's very difficult to stop it. And you have to remember that when we're not plowing roads, these vehicles are used for all kinds of things, including responding to things like macro bursts. So once the pretty paint gets chipped and rust starts attacking the vehicle, it just accelerates. It's a very difficult thing to control and stop.
So I have a question on that one. So, I understand it spreads salt and all of that. Do you replace the brake lines on those regularly, or because I mean, if a brake line went, well, that thing's out.
They're air brakes to start, so There's not really a problem with the airlines because most of them are plastic now,
Yeah.
but the air cans do go and stuff. We replace them, and but
Yeah, it's a common problem. It's just not a Brookfield problem, but this is a
Right.
common problem with all Department of Public Works and the DOT for that matter. It's just something that we fight. But like I said, if you look at the age of our fleet, I think we do pretty well because just the fact that half of our fleet is over 15 years old and they're in that tough environment. I mean, think about it. Most people, I don't think, drive cars that are too much older than 15 years. So the fact that half of our fleet is
Our cars don't cost $280,000 either, but
well, that's true, but they're not built to do
tough
the
shape.
jobs that we do. But basically, what I'm saying is, when you have a car that's in the 15 to 20-year range, you just have to imagine that it's going to break down, and
Right.
vehicle maintenance costs are going to accelerate. That's just the fact of life, and it's the same with our vehicles. Only it's more expensive to repair these things. So anyway,
Yep. Thank you.
next slide. This is our job trucks, actually hand me down from Board of Ed. They used it to deliver meals years ago, and the mail lady didn't like driving it, so we said we'll switch you for an old police cruiser for this truck that we use on our drainage jobs and other construction jobs. We put all our hand tools and gas powered tools, keeps them dry, secure, and supplies, pipe supplies for bringing rail to the job, and everything's right there on the job, and it keeps them secure when we're not using them. And like I said, in the budget price, we have no problem with buying a used, like fleet truck in good condition with a lift gate to replace this. But there's no reason to buy a new truck to have it just work on drainage jobs and other novelty jobs.
So $60,000 gets you a used one?
Yeah, I use box truck with a lift gate. We priced around and budget was a pretty good budget number.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be 4-wheel drive with a plow, it's just a utility truck that we bring on jobs.
Yep.
Basically a moving toolbox, what it is. All right, next slide. This is a 1999 International 2554 all-season dump. It's seen its life. The frame's been fixed twice where it was split from rust between the rails.
yeah, again, that's 21 years old. So
We would like to replace it with a modern new truck. Should be under $230,000, but that's a budget price, and the Board of Selectmen adjusted this out of their budget, I believe.
yeah, no, I guess I could bring it up
Thanks.
now. But a suggestion that I have is actually that we actually have over $2 million proposed in our paving budget this year, and 550,000 of that is because of the referendum that we didn't get to go to referendum last year. But I would propose that we take some of that paving money out. That's probably more money. 2 million is probably more than we need or could spend in 1 year. So I would propose swapping some of that paving money to get a new truck if possible.
All right, next slide. Just more photos of the same truck. Next slide. And that's our mini excavator. We put in every year, see if we can get one to share between us and Park and Rec for our projects and MS4 projects, and they can use for clearing trails and trees down and storm cleanups. So it's one of those novelty items. It'd be nice to have when you need it, but
Yeah, it's
unfortunately,
our wish list item.
What do you use now in place of one?
we have a bigger excavator with
And
seal
also,
tracks.
and also when we need something specifically this side, we actually have rented one in the past as well. So
That's what I thought.
So
How often do you find that you need to rent one?
James,
probably,
you got that, James?
yeah, 5 or 10 times a year.
Oh,
Somewhere
wow.
in there. And Park and Rec is also in the same boat. They rent them for small jobs and trail work. Or,
Is that something, I know that one of the capital requests was for work on the path around Cadigan. That type of vehicle would be what you'd use, isn't it?
Yeah, it would probably be more appropriate to use a smaller excavator. Yes.
How much does it cost per rental?
they're about $500 a day to rent.
Oh, geez.
And you've rented it, you said about 5 to 10 times a year. How
Yeah.
many days each time?
Usually a day or two when we get them for, a
Yeah.
small drainage job or.
Okay.
So at $500, you're spending your guys' time to go pick it up and drop it off also.
Yeah, we pick it up from inflation.
Yeah, that would be us. I guess Mary might be able to tell you how many times they use one, two. So they might be able to use it the same amount of time as well. So you got to double that pretty much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So with that, if you have any questions about our budget, we'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, I have a couple questions, Ralph.
Okay.
Or actually to Steve. I think you mentioned that the 550, but Steve, you took that out, correct?
That is correct. It's not in this budget. So we would have to add 225 to the budget.
And you took out the dump body plow truck for 225, correct?
Right, that's what we're talking about here, what Ralph wanted to get back.
Yeah, that's the one we were hoping to get back in somehow. I mean, like I said, it's probably one of our top 2 or 3 priorities as far as things go. I know it's not the top priority vehicle, but it's one of our top 3 priorities overall.
Yeah,
So
you
if-
know,
Okay.
one thing to consider here, and I wouldn't usually say this, is that if we do borrow this year, we're going to borrow for the schools. We don't have a choice there to finish that. These are historically low rates to borrow at. So that should be part of the thinking when we look at all of these items.
I also said I would never do this, but we're actually in a good, our roads are in really good shape. I would be willing to give up a little bit more paving money to get a truck as well. Because of the efforts that we put into our roads over the past 10 years or so, we're actually doing very well. And we're actually at the point where we were going to bank a little bit of money this year for a rainy day. But I'd be willing to give up some of that money in exchange for a vehicle as well. And now would be the time to do that if we did do that.
So Ralph, if we take the 550 that the Board of Selectmen took out, so
Right.
we're down now, you're saying you could take a little bit more out if we could put towards the truck? How much would that be that we could put towards the truck?
Maybe half of the value of the truck, I would think, may be a fair amount.
Okay,
So putting 115 back in.
so we'd have to take the 550 mark and drop that to 400. We'd have to put 150 back in, yeah.
115 back in, yeah.
Yeah,
And you got to remember, with our road paving budget, even though the number hasn't gone down over probably the last 7 or 8 years, prices have been going up. So even though we don't really see the number reduced in our budget, we actually have been reducing our paving line over the last 5 or so years just because of the built-in inflation. So our road program is working. Basically, that's what I'm saying.
Well, I'll tell you guys that as a resident, I take a lot of pride in the fact that Brookfield has the best roads around. And I hear that from almost everyone I talk to talks about between paving and road maintenance. You guys really do a great job. So,
Well, thank you. We really appreciate that. Thank you.
I second that. I had no issues in the snow this year. The plowing was spot on, and it was impressive to see the change when I drove from Brookfield into another town neighboring.
Thank you. And that all the credit goes to James and his crew. I mentioned at the Board of Selectmen meeting, since I've been here, we actually replaced almost all of our drivers with the exception of 2. And that's something that's been carried down to the new guys. They take a lot of pride in the way they get their routes done and the fact that they do get the compliments from the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen, and as well as people who drive through our town. So they're really proud of that. They've continued that, and I'm proud of them.
I'll tell you.
He's on the road bike too.
And Ralph, I'm not trying to give you any credit. I'm giving it all to James.
He should get it. I mean, he's the one that's up throughout the night, believe me.
But I'm members of other towns' pages, and I hear them bitch constantly about why can't we maintain our roads like Brookfield? And it is a good sense of pride. You guys should
Well,
be
thank
proud.
you.
Yeah, and if you look at it last year, Newtown was getting yelled at so much. They did what we did 12 years ago. They bonded $10 million to
They'll
start to
feel
catch
that.
up.
That'll hurt.
It does. Ralph, if we took 110, 115 out of your road paving budget, next year you'd still want the 1.5, right?
Yeah, like I said, this is something I said I would never do, but if we were going to do it, now would be the time. And the fact that that truck is in such bad shape, I'd be willing to, take the hit. But yeah, I don't think it would affect the overall quality of our roads. And next year we'd get back to normal.
I think that's reasonable, Ralph. Next year you'd get the full 1.5 if we decide to go that route.
Thank you.
What's in the replacement budget for next year?
I do have a 10-year plan off the top of my head. I can't tell you, but it's probably, you know, I've always said that we need at least one larger plow truck a year. And then you'll probably see that mini excavator again, because I don't think it's going to probably make it through this year. And then a couple of other smaller pieces of equipment. Maybe James could answer that a little bit better than I did.
I wasn't talking small, I was talking big. There's a loader coming on the pike, and there's also the Vector replacement in 3 or 4 years, and the Vector's probably up over $400,000. And the loaders are over 200.
How old is that Vector, James?
Oh, I think it's 18 years.
Yeah, all right.
Can I ask a question about the excavator again?
Sure.
As long as Dan's done.
Go
I
ahead,
didn't want to jump in Dan's way.
go ahead.
Did I miss the price of a mini excavator machine that you had on your slide? Did I miss the price of it?
85.
85,000.
85,000. Okay. And then would that also be used in storms? Would that help out with the storm frequency?
Yes, you can
Would
put that in a trailer and move it around to various spots. And it'd be a rubber track machine, so it wouldn't really tear up the roads.
Okay, got it. And then, but that wouldn't change any expenses like for tree removals or anything. That wouldn't save you any money except for the rental.
Yeah,
Right.
it's part of the job to move the
Okay.
stuff, so
Sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you.
thank you.
Hey, Ralph, a quick question on the fuel. How long are you contracted out for?
Well, that contract usually goes, the prices that you see in the budget are from July to July. And then Marcia may have, or Jules may have the prices. I think we might be contracted through 2022, but the prices you see are from July to July, the budget season, the fiscal year.
Okay.
I'm seeing if I can find it now, but I don't think I think it's a Jerry's file, so it would have been in paper, so I may not be
Yeah.
able to get it.
I thought they went out through 2022. I'm not positive about that though, but the prices do change a bit.
So going back to the paving versus truck question, I'm not generally in favor of using the paving budget as a bank for other stuff, but I get what you're talking about here. But you know, anything we take from the paving budget this year is going to have to be replenished to get back to zero next year. So if we take 115 out, it's an automatic $115,000 pretty much increase to the budget next year because the vehicle replacement schedule is kind of the same. So I'm not necessarily for or against it. I want to think about it. But if we do go that way, I would argue that despite the fact that rates are low, we want to take it from the bonding and not the cash piece so that we don't have to replenish $115,000 of cash to get to par next year. So just something to think about.
Yeah, and you know, with Jim saying that a $400,000 vac truck or something and a loader that's God knows how much that is, I'm wondering if we should put a little bit away.
Yep.
It's gonna be tough this year, but like we do with the fire department, let's try to put something away in years to
reserve. That's a good idea, Mark.
Yeah, I think
Hey.
that's a good idea. It's something we've talked about in the past, but I think it's a good idea because, although vehicles are cyclical, you do have larger expenses in one year when you might have a little bit less in another. So it just
Right.
makes sense to even it out a little bit. Just plan on spending a certain amount per year.
yeah. I
Hey,
don't know.
Steve,
Yeah,
you made a comment earlier, Steve, that interest rates are low and Dan just, seconded that sort of in a way. Is
Right.
there a way to put forth a little schedule that maybe we can do this and realize and take advantage of the market and our good financial standing right now?
sure. We could take the projects and make an estimate as to what the cost would be to the town as it is now, and with any additions that you want to see. We can get very close, and do the analysis.
I mean, do you think it makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I do, actually. I think like with the fire trucks, we probably should have been reserving for these huge $250,000 to $400,000 vehicles every year. And if we were putting 25 grand a year away, and we did that for 12 years, you got 300,000 of a $400,000 truck. And you don't get that pain point of all this stuff rolling over all at the same time. I mean, a 21-year-old truck is a pretty old truck.
Can you bond a reserve?
I'm sorry, can you?
You can't bond a reserve, can you?
No. We would have to.
No, I was talking about putting a reserve towards some of that, so we don't have to bond the full amount of some of these larger purchases.
Right. So Glenn, if you're gonna reserve, and anything you bond has to be spent. You can't bond a reserve.
Correct. I was thinking, Dan, just financing it at the low rates.
The only thing that we have to worry about is, yes, interest rates are low. It would be great to take advantage of it, but we might not be in a position to take advantage of it because we've got that little 3 or 4 year bump. That so we want to just remember that.
Good point.
Okay.
Can I ask just one question in the operating budget, and it's pennies compared to to the trucks, but with the Emerald Ash Borer, I know that there was a lot of tree work done up at Williams Park and Gursky preemptively, and you know, once you recognize the damage that the ash borers do, you can actually see how many trees. But I was just wondering, is there like a community program for people to identify when they see trees that have the damage? Because I don't imagine you guys have enough feet on the ground to see every, I mean, obviously you travel the roads quite a bit, but I'm just wondering if there's any citizen program that we might be able to take advantage of other people observing.
There is not a specific program that we, go with residents.
Yeah.
We now have a tree warden, and we'll be sending him out on a regular basis to look for this. But I think that's a really good idea. Maybe we could put some kind of a, little package together to put on the website. Here's how you identify it. This is what it looks like.
Yep. And I noticed a lot of surrounding towns. Newtown has flagged a whole bunch of trees going up Currituck, and so it's obviously widespread in the area.
And
yeah, we just have to be a little bit careful because we do have a limited budget, and we try to schedule trees based on the danger they present.
Yep.
And we don't want to create a monster. We might end up having trees marked all over town that we don't have enough time or money to take down. But
Yep.
We try to, like I said, prioritize the most dangerous first.
Yep.
And just following up on Ralph, that the fuel contract goes to June 30th, 2022.
Oh, good. That's good.
Okay, any other questions?
No, I'm good.
Hearing no questions, thank you so much,
Well,
Ralph
thank
and
you.
James, for the job that you do. Like everybody said, it's a great town to live in, so thank you.
Oh, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
All right, on to Park and Rec.
All right. Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Mary Knox. I'm the Director of Park and Rec. I'm being joined this evening by Chris Rebuse, our Park Supervisor. We have been having a little bit of instability in our internet connection here at the Park and Rec office, so please bear with us. If we start to phase out, I hope that somebody will let us know that we need to try to do something different here. We'll go ahead and jump in. So what we do for the Parks Department, what people know that we do is we do the mowing and the landscaping, the park, schools, and the municipally owned properties, the maintenance and lining of ball fields, garbage removal at the parks and all schools and municipal owned properties, leaf removal in the fall, and plowing, salting in the winter at all the schools and then municipally owned properties. What we also do is the operation and maintenance of irrigation systems and seasonal water systems, including restrooms at the town beach and the playground, maintenance of all playgrounds from swing seats to fall zones, trail maintenance and improvements, including small tree removal, beautification projects, and seasonal displays. We work in support of the goals of other organizations in town, from the Youth Sports League, athletics at the high school, even to Economic Development Commission. And we do support the town center district by installing and removing the seasonal banners and the light posts. We water the hanging flower baskets, often daily throughout the summer months. And we also maintain the shelter and clear the snow as needed for access, which we can all appreciate has been quite frequently over the last couple of weeks. Our very essence is really to set the stage for the use and enjoyment of the town-owned properties for our residents. And these tasks are accomplished with our four full-time employees, including our working supervisor, and contracted services and seasonal employees are used to supplement our labor force during peak times throughout the year. What we do for recreation, at least what we're known for outside of a COVID year, we have our popular after-school programs, especially for K-1 and grades 2 through 4. We do our Friday night ski and snowboard trips, often with 180 students and a group of dedicated volunteers. We offer youth basketball leagues for boys and girls in grades 1 through 12. We have a lot of different special events for the community, including our annual egg hunts, Halloween 5K, town hall trick or treat, magic shows, and many more. We sponsored our 11-week concert in the park series, summer, fully funded by sponsorship revenue. We operate the town beach and hire and train staff to provide a robust aquatics program. We plan and supervise at least 8 weeks of camp each summer, and we offer a variety of adult education and enrichment classes, in addition to adult fitness classes and open gym. And these tasks and many more are accomplished with 3 full-time employees, myself, our recreation supervisor, and our administrative assistant. And we'd like to think that we're always evolving here at Parks and Recreation, and probably no more so than when we last met back in February 2020, although we have the opportunity to actually speak directly with the Board of Finance. For the Parks Department, since that time, we've taken on the responsibility of maintaining the Old South Cemetery on Sunset Hill, including the mowing and the spring and fall cleanups. We're now responsible for the mowing of the farmers market area, which actually had not been lawn prior to spring 2020, as well as lawn maintenance at the former Grimes property. The recent addition at the glass recycling container in the parking area near Town Hall has actually required us to start plowing that area so residents can continue to access it no matter the weather. And we've made trail maintenance a priority to support the increased use that all the town parks and open spaces have been seeing throughout the pandemic. Last, we installed and we've been providing daily maintenance for the new seasonal ice rink at Williams Park. The rink opened on January 30th. And as of our Board of Selectmen presentation on the 22nd of February, it was open. It has been closed for most of the time since that point. We are hoping for some cold weather and maybe a couple of half days of skating this weekend, but we are monitoring that on a daily basis. For recreation, our accomplishments throughout the pandemic, we're really proud because when a lot of communities said we can't, we tried to find ways to say, yes, we can. We did offer our concerts in the park series, which was fully funded by sponsorship revenue, and offered safely in compliance with all of the sector rules for outdoor events that we needed to follow. We also live streamed the concerts on YouTube so that the residents could also enjoy them from the comfort of their homes. Last summer in 2020, the town beach operated. We served our residents by switching to a reservation system to make sure that we could be in compliance with the social distancing requirements we needed to follow at the time. We also safely offered a variety of summer camp programs, both traditional day camps and sports camps, following all the guidelines from the Office of Early Childhood. We've offered a variety of virtual programs in spring 2020, as well as virtual and outdoor in-person programs last fall and throughout this winter. Last summer, the Board of Education was gracious enough to allow us use of the school buildings in order to hold our summer camp programs. However, we have not had access to the schools since that point in time, which is very understandable, but has caused us to get a little bit more creative than usual. We've actually been using the outdoor turf at Cadigan quite a bit over the winter months, having it plowed off, and we found out that you actually can still play flag football when it's 25 degrees out, and the kids really still do enjoy the programs. We've worked with the youth sports leagues to educate the leadership on the sector rules needed to follow. We have assisted in reviewing the COVID protocols prior to their resuming play. And we introduced a whole slew of variety of new events that could be safely offered despite the changes in the guidelines that we've been working through over the past year. Last March, we had our drive around egg hunt where people stayed in their cars and had to try to find the eggs that we had hidden at the town parks throughout town. We've done to-go kits. We've had best hand poker hikes, smartphone trivia and jukebox trivia, both virtual programs. We've done a haunted house driving tour and our holiday house driving tour that we worked with the Arts Commission on. So we really just tried to find ways that we can still meet the needs of the community, no matter what the guidelines are. So we've been asked to talk a little bit about what resources are important to us for the next coming year. So we'll spend just a moment talking about our parks budget drivers, our recreation budget drivers, our next priority item, which is our third grounds maintainer, and then a little bit of time talking about some capital projects and equipment. So we were asked to come back with a 0% increase in our operating. We did do our best recognizing the economic climate that we're in right now. So for our parks operating budget drivers, right now, salaries and wages are proposed increase $4,707, which does not include the salary increases for the 3 union positions. For our projects, equipment, and facility maintenance total, we're not asking for any increase at all on that line. We do expect for increases in the costs of some items, including portalet rentals and refuse removal. And we're also going to have an unbudgeted obligation to replace banners in the town center district. But we do hope to manage those additional costs within our current operating budget. The net increase to the parks budget is $207, which we could maintain because we had a $4,500 one-time expense for tree work in the cemetery last year, which is not being requested this year again. And then for recreation, our operating budget drivers, salary and wages, $5,173, again, does not include any proposed union salary increase. And all of our other lines combined, we're asking for an increase of $747. We do have a known increase in the cost of our software, our registration software, eTrack, which is effective on 7/1. We tried to go through, we actually went line by line to see where we thought we could make some cuts in order to try to offset even that cost. So we did have a deduction in our office supply line and in travel and conferences. And so our net increase for recreation proposed is $5,920. We would like to spend a lot of our time this evening with you talking about our next priority item, which is an opportunity for our department for several years. We didn't have the opportunity to actually speak to it last year, so we're very happy to be able to do that with you this evening. And that's the addition of a full-time employee. And I know that there's never a good time to ask for an additional full-time employee, and perhaps this is a particularly bad time to ask for that. But I hope that you'll appreciate that we wouldn't even be introducing it if we really didn't think that it was a real need for our department. So just a little bit of history. I know some people probably know this history very well and others may not. But back in 2008, the Parks Department actually had a staff of 7, including 6 grounds maintainers and a working supervisor. And we've submitted a budget proposal back in 08-09 to reduce the number of grounds maintainers by 50% or 3 positions, and then to rely more on contracted services to take on some responsibilities for lawn mowing and for restroom cleaning. And since 2009, the Parks Department has had 4 full-time positions, the park supervisor, a crew leader, and 2 grounds maintainers. And this model had served the town well. We've probably saved the town over $1 million over the last 13 years. However, back as far as fiscal year 16-17, the need to reinstate 1 full-time grounds maintainer was seen by our department and supported by the Parks and Rec Commission. So back in 16-17, instead of funding for a full-time position, our department did receive a substantial increase in part-time seasonal employee wages, which is very much appreciated. We've continued to rely heavily on part-time seasonal wages. And during budget discussions in January 2020 and again in January 2021, the Parks and Recreation Commission did support the addition of 1 additional full-time employee for our department. So when we think about what's changed since 2008, if I'm you, I'm wondering, well, why do we need somebody else now? So since 2008, a pesticide on K-8 properties was enacted back in July 2010, and that necessitates more intensive practices for us to make sure that the playing fields are in good condition on the school properties. We can't use our full arsenal of options. We've had renovations to facilities at Kids Kingdom back in 2012, Cadigan Park in 2014, the Town Park Beach in 2015, and of course the Brookfield High School Athletic Complex And so we've seen a lot of increased usage and then, demand for support of that usage, everything from picking up garbage to more frequently grooming fields. We had the opening of the nearly 2-mile-long Still River Greenway back in 2016. And we do have a lot of regular maintenance duties that come along with the Greenway, including garbage collection, removal of leaves, debris, branches, repairs to the fencing, benches, trail signs, decking, railings, and then tree maintenance. And, we can all appreciate we've had so many more wind events and storm events in the past couple of years than I can remember in a really long time. And one of our first duties when we have those events is to go through the Greenway and just to make sure that it's still safe for people to go through. No leaning trees, no debris on the walkway. And so it is something that we really take a lot of pride in. I think the town takes a lot of pride in, but that does take a lot of our time in order to make sure that it's safe for use. We've also had the establishment of the Town Center District and the Street Safe projects. And so we have had additional responsibilities because of that, from the banners, the holiday lights, the holiday roping, and watering the flowers. And then with each additional phase of the streetscape as it's completed, we do expect for our responsibilities to continue to grow. And then when the pocket park is installed, we do expect us to be maintaining the pocket park as well. So we just see our workload continuing to grow over the next couple of years as well. So why we're asking for a position this year again is back prior to 2019, we actually hired multiple seasonal workers who would typically work from May through August, and they would help us with a lot of the busier times during our summer months where we had, the beach was open, a lot of the different fields were open. But what we found was by going with that model, we didn't actually have help when we could also use it on the shoulder season. So we're preparing fields in March for play for scholastic sports. And when we're still trying to kind of get the fields to bed, so to speak, for the winter in October and November. And so when we still had a lot of work to do, we didn't actually have that seasonal help. So we rethought how we're using our seasonal help. And then back in March of 2019, we decided to go with, instead of having more seasonal help just for the summer months, we actually elongated the time that we were going to have fewer seasonal positions. And we did that with a 5th seasonal position. We had, I misspoke. We did that and we had what we consider to be almost our 5th grounds maintainer position. And he worked with us from April through October. And when we did that, we really found that we had a lot of additional benefits from having that continuity and stability in our department. That person has continued to work with our department for the past couple of years. We recognize that we may not always be so fortunate to have that person returning to our department year after year. So when we think about what a full-time employee can give us that a seasonal employee can't, we do have some challenges finding qualified people who can work with us for the longer duration, the shoulder seasons that we need. We do have a lot of busy work, as I just mentioned, in the early spring and then in the later fall, and we can't always get people to work with us through those busier times. Efficiency, we do tend to spend time training and retraining people during what are some of our busier times. So as an example, by the middle of March, we would want to have already somebody onboarded to start working with us. If we can't do it by then, we're really kind of eating into our time to do other tasks that are needed. For knowledge and experience, seasonal labor has some constraints on what kinds of duties it can be assigned. We can't possibly train them in all of the different things that we do, all the different types of equipment that we use. And so we are limited as to the different duties we can use them for, as opposed to a regular full-time employee that we could use and train and continue to grow in our department. And then for the continuity of workflow, we're thinking about our current staff. Our 4 full-time employees, are entitled to a cumulative 85 days of vacation, which is a wonderful benefit for folks that have worked with the town for a very long time. We do have a couple of 20-year employees. And assuming that we have 250 work days per year, we can assume that 34% of the time we can have one of our employees on vacation. And certainly, employees are out for other reasons as well. People get sick, they have family obligations, we have long-term, things that happen with medical. And so it's very possible for us on many days during the course of the year to only have a couple of full-time employees out of our 4. And then we're left with decisions of which tasks are the most important to get done for that day. A couple of other considerations for the third grounds maintainer, and I'm sorry to keep going on and on, but you can tell we're very passionate about this. And I promise we're not going to speak so long on any of the other items this evening. You know, workman's compensation is certainly a concern that we have. The work of the Parks Department is very physical work. Our current staffing levels, you know, our park supervisor often is not taking all of his vacation or earned time off. And we do think that it's important for people to allow time to have their bodies rest. And I do think that the town could be at an increased risk for workman's compensation claims if we're not able to allow our employees that ability. For essential services, I think that the pandemic has really highlighted how essential parks are to a community and to the Brookfield community. So the Parks Department, not only do we provide essential services to the town through our snow operations and our emergency responses to storms, but also just by maintaining the safe operation of the parks and facilities that we do on a daily basis. When I was thinking a little bit more about this, we also have, you know, additional capital projects, capital equipment purchases, and all of these things do take up more and more time of the Parks Department and Park Supervisor in particular. And so, you know, we're kind of at a point where we're not sure how much further we can stretch people's time before it can't be stretched any longer.
Mary, can I pause you here for a second?
Yeah.
Or would you rather wait till the end? But I'd have to come back to this slide. So we have people that are getting 17 weeks of vacation and they can't use it all, which I understand 17 weeks in a 52-week year is a lot of vacation.
I'm sorry, Mark, may I interrupt? The maximum will be 4 to 5 weeks. It's cumulative between all employees.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry that wasn't clear.
Whew. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I would be asking if I thought we had 17 weeks of vacation, I would be bringing that point up as well, but that certainly is not the case.
I literally was about to say, sign me up. I'm ready to go to work.
Well, Brianna, if we get a new position, we can hire you. Yeah, so.
Touche.
Thank you. So the budget, may I continue, Mark? I'm sorry, I don't want to. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So the budget as presented, or that we presented to the town, did not include the funding for the next priority item. The Board of Selectmen, excuse me, did put it into their budget. And so what we would propose is that if we are granted the next priority to have an additional full-time person, that we would reduce our seasonal sporadic line by $27,000. And so the net increase to our budget for salaries would be about $26,675. In full disclosure, we're all aware that there's an additional cost for benefits through the town that would be estimated at about $30,000. I do know that it varies depending on, you know, married, not married, family, taking medical benefits, not taking medical benefits, but $30,000 is our placeholder number for the value of those benefits that wouldn't be seen in our department, but would be seen as part of the employee benefits package. May I answer any questions about the grounds maintainer before I continue? All right, I guess we'll go on to the.
All right, I do have one question.
Certainly.
So if you go back, so for that, the net increase of 26, because of, sorry, that slide, that doesn't include this. So it's ultimately 56 to include the benefits, right?
Correct. The net increase to our department for salary would be the 26, and then the benefit would be an additional cost that would not be seen in our department as a line.
Oh, sorry, I forgot that it works that way. Okay, thank you.
But Eileen, that could go down a little bit because it could be a single instead of a
Right.
family. So that's a variable number that they can't put a number on it
You
now.
can't totally predict. You want a more conservative estimate.
We fully loaded that number.
Yep.
Assuming it's a married person with children
Yep.
and they want our plan.
Yep.
And we also have about $5,600 of pension in there. We've got to think about that when we make our decisions, but it would not be a dollar per dollar increase in the 22 budget because we won't pay it until it hits the actuarial evaluation. But we just wanted to make sure you didn't think we forgot pensions.
Okay.
And Steve, to be clear, the Board of Selectmen put this back in.
Yes, we did. The Board of
Okay.
Selectmen did put it in.
All right,
I
thank you.
didn't put any of the next priorities in my budget because I wanted to talk to the Board of Selectmen about it. But this was unanimous to add this back in.
Yeah, I'm not complaining. I just wanted to understand, that's all.
Thank you.
All the next priority forms, none of them were included in the original budget. That it's expected that they would be added in separately afterwards.
All right. Moving on to some of the larger capital budget requests asks that we have. We did speak about this a couple of years ago. We talked about replacing the back turf field and the importance of starting to save some additional monies for that. What we're proposing for this year is actually to get full funding for the replacement of the backfield. We do feel that it's time to go ahead and replace it before we're in a position that we have to be reactionary if we have to close it because of bad test results. So we are asking for the full funding, which is estimated to be about $530,000 in total. We do already have $127,000 in the reserve fund. So it would be the $403,000 funded this year. I also want to take just a quick opportunity to mention that the timing for replacing the stadium field is not that far behind. Both the stadium field and the back turf field were put in within about a year of each other. And so I think it would be important for us to make sure that we have, one field at the high school facility that is in, really good shape, and then focus our efforts on replacement of the stadium field in the next year or two. We do plan to get both fields tested again in the spring so we can get another snapshot of how we're doing in terms of our GMAX ratings on each. Another capital resource that we're asking for this year is money for engineer plans for the baseball and softball outfields. And back last year, we did have the opportunity to present this to the Board of Selectmen. Basically what happens is the Brookfield High School spring and baseball and softball seasons start before any of the different youth programs in town. They're often starting to practice in the middle of March and then having their first contest by the end of March. And prior to 2021, wet field conditions any day could often move the games off site to either Huck 90 or to perhaps a neutral site where the Brookfield High School would play as the home team on a neutral site. Now in March 2021, we no longer have Huckleberry 90 or Huckleberry 60 as options for play. And so we really think it's time to put some resources to drainage for the high school field. Back in March 2020, we did present this, and the Board of Selectmen actually had in the budget $261,000 to fund both the plans, the engineer plans, as well as expected construction costs. And I believe that also remained in the Board of Finance's budget, but was later removed as a COVID adjustment because we wouldn't have the bonded funding that was needed to complete the project. We originally had wanted to complete that project in the fall of 2020. So it would be ready for the spring of 2021. But again, circumstances did not allow for that. It was taken out. And this year, what we're asking for is not for the full $261,000. We're asking for a more conservative approach. So we're asking for the $30,000 to fund just the engineered plans. We actually already went out to bid on that last spring. We do know that's a very solid number for that. And then once we have that, we'll have a much better idea of the actual costs or the different options that we have as a town on the ways to address the drainage issues there. And just a couple of moments talking again about the Brookfield High School tennis courts. Again, we all know that they're at the end of their lifespan. We started putting some money away in reserve in order to plan for replacement. We do know that the total cost for replacement is really going to vary. It's projected between about $330,000 and $650,000, depending on what option we select. What we're looking to do this year is we're looking to put more money in reserve. We're looking to spend the next few months really taking a closer look at the different options that we have. Currently, those options would be replacing existing for existing, so 4 courts for 4 courts on site. We could think about adding a 5th court on site, or we could also think about moving the courts to a different site nearby, which would be the most expensive option, but might be the best for the long-term benefit of the town and the program. So we do hope to come back to you again next year with some solid plans in place for full funding next year. But for right now, we are asking for money to be continue to be put away for this purpose, because we do know that it's a real need and that it's coming very quickly. And then we did have many different requests, everything from a F-350 truck to a Bobcat toolcat replacement, our zero-turn mowers. We have a Cat 908M compact wheel loader. That was a very big ticket item. So I do just want to kind of mention why we had it in there this year and why it wasn't in there last year. So the Cat 908M is something that we're thinking is going to be very valuable to us for a variety of different purposes, but especially so for the plowing of Huckleberry Hill, the new school project. So, the way the parking lot's been designed has a lot of traffic islands inside, and we do feel that we're going to need to purchase something else to help us with the snow removal on that particular location. And that's why we're looking at this. It had been taken out by the Board of Selectmen. We totally respect that. We think that we can go another year. We wouldn't need it necessarily for another year, but we did want to just mention what the anticipated usage is for that. So people are aware of that if we come back with it again next year. And then we did have just a few other capital projects that we wanted to highlight. The replacement body for our F550 diesel truck 19, which is about 10 years old, has some significant rust. We do acknowledge that we do think the truck has a lot of life left in it, but the body does not. And so we think it would be smarter for us to try to replace the body on it and to get some additional life rather than asking for a new vehicle sooner than we need one. Same thing with our replacement body for the 2011 rack, truck 32. Again, additional rust, some safety issues, and we're looking to try to replace the body on that one as well. And then we haven't been having really good luck with staircases here in Brookfield. We have the town hall. We had replaced the stairs from a parking area. Those of you who are familiar with walking down either to the summer concert series or to softball games at Iroquois Field, you know these stairs very well. We did spend some time and replace what we could this past spring. It was in our capital budget for last year. It was taken out because it was going to be addressed as part of the town hall Greenway extension project, which I know is no longer in the pipeline for right now. And so we are asking to replace these stairs. And then we also have the Cadigan Park, the main staircase. We have been having continual issues with the main staircase that leads to the fields. We do feel that the best process would be to actually just redo it and to make sure the correct moisture barriers or products are used when it's reinstalled. We did have to close it back in 2019 for a couple of weeks until we could get some repairs done. We have been putting money into repairs annually, and I think it just might be good money for us to try to take care of the problem without continuing to repair it. We do have many other capital asks as well. We don't have slides on anything else, but either Chris or myself will be very happy to answer any questions that you have about any of the slides or anything else in our budget.
I had a question about field maintenance and the organizations, it's not necessarily in the budget, but we put aside money in reserves for updating the fields when it comes out. I know that, with the baseball fields and the loss of the 60-foot field at Huckleberry, that's a big concern of a lot of parents. I know that different organizations maybe pay for some of the supplies to maintain the fields, but is there like a set fee? I think other towns maybe have a per player registered per program like fee that goes to help as a reserve to maintain fields. And I was wondering if that's anything that we do or anything that we've considered doing. I know there are a lot of kids and families that use our fields, and maybe that's a way to help support them.
Yeah, I know only, I've only investigated, Newtown does this, and they have a per player per season fee that they impose against every league, soccer, lacrosse, whatever it is.
Yep.
And they have a good fund balance for that, and they use it to do things like replace their turf fields.
Yep.
And it is built up to a point that all of the maintenance of all of their playing fields is taken care of by that fund. You can argue whether it's the right thing to do or not, but it does help them a lot in that they have a separate amount of money. If they need to replace a turf field, they just do it. So that's the only one I'm aware of, though.
Okay.
Slippery slope of pay for use on all services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pay to play. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess even a nominal amount to put in a fund for maintenance. I mean, if you look at the history of some of these things, I mean, how much we've cut from asks or, just tried to slowly build up a reserve fund on them. I just wonder if there was another way to build a reserve.
Yeah, I think Newtown charged, I think I talked to them 2 years ago. I think it was $10 per season per player.
Okay.
For baseball, that's 140, I think, to 160 each season to register. The one concern I have here, and we're kind of getting a little afield here, is I met with Steve Harding Sr. this morning.
Yep.
About this, because with losing the fields at Huckleberry and redoing the fields at Wisconneer, we're going to be down fields, and we're going to try to time this so it's not during baseball seasons that we like doing the work at Wisconneer.
Right.
And they do have in the new school budget the funding to redo the fields. So we have to try to organize that and get it as least disruptive as possible for the baseball guys.
Okay. And Steve, can I ask why the selectmen took out like the blower attachment and the truck bodies? Like what was, I mean, they're pretty small dollar amounts. I'm just wondering, like the blower attachment has been asked for 2 years back. So I was just wondering what the justification or the reason behind it was.
Steve, you're muted if you're trying to answer her.
Oh.
I'm
Sorry.
trying.
But we used primarily, I'm sorry, supposedly you can hit your space bar and it unmute you, but it didn't work this time. We primarily used the priority list that each department gave us, the priority numbering.
Okay.
And we just simply, although all these projects and things, even if they're small, are needed and wanted, but we have to draw the line somewhere.
Right.
We can't do everything we want to do.
Okay. I just didn't know if there's anything else behind it.
No.
Okay.
And to that point, I think there are some challenges because our department, it's broken down. We have building and equipment, and then we have maintenance, and then we have school grounds. And so when we're doing our overall capital order priority, we're doing it all entirely. And then if you break them down, into subgroups, perhaps we would be looking at different subgroups a little bit differently. And so there's some challenges in kind of reading the information as it's being delivered.
Yep. And can I just ask, do you have so you have the Bobcat, but do you already have a blower attachment this is replacing, or is this a new capital item for the blower attachment?
We do already have one.
Okay.
This would be a second one.
Okay.
May I answer any additional questions from anybody?
Anybody have any questions?
Good, thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys have done a great job, especially with the pandemic and people using the parks. I mean, I use them quite a bit, mostly the open spaces, and I've been really impressed with the maintenance, and things are cleared up after storms, and you guys have done a really nice job, and a lot of people are using them, so I think that's appreciated a lot.
All right. Any other questions?
I think Mary might be frozen. I think they're both frozen.
All right.
Well, in that case, I have a lot of questions.
All right. I really don't think we have any questions. So now we might as well move on to general budget discussions. And I had what I'd like to see, Steve and Marcia, if you could do for us. I'd like to see the year-to-date numbers on the budget lines for anything less than 20% used budget this year. So for instance, let's take a line like the Selectmen's Legal Notice 55400. We have budgeted $10,000, I believe, in there, $10,760. Prior year, we used $3,009, and prior year before that, we used $0. So that's just an example. Can we get, like I say, the year-to-date numbers of accounts that have 20% or less used budget? And can we then get any encumbrances against that, so we can see how these accounts were spent against?
Sure.
That's a great question, Glenn. That's really cool.
I think it'll save us a lot of time from going through each line, Dan, if we have it in front of us ahead of time, right? I mean, it'll allow us to look and see, because there's like unemployment also was another line that one year we had 20,000 spent, but prior years we had like less than 500 spent, and we budgeted 10,000 last year. We've spent $0 year to date, and we have 10,000 budgeted next year.
It's great. I mean, that's a great idea. It'll help us see which ones are really plugs and which ones are being used. I think that's a good idea.
I can tell you on unemployment, that's a very variable number.
Absolutely.
We don't know if somebody's leaving. Yep. So we take our best guess at what we think it might be by the end of the year. Some years we don't spend anything. Some years we spend a fair bit.
Absolutely. I'm not really picking on it, Steve. I just want to look at it.
No, it's a good question.
I think that's brilliant. I think that should be part of the regular package annually. That's a great idea, Glenn.
Thank you. Is 20% the number you think that's reasonable? I mean, or should we go lower? I don't know.
I think that's a good number.
20%, but 20% in March, I think that's a good number.
Okay. Yeah, if there's any, and I don't know how fast it takes you, Steve, to pull that or not, but I mean, if we could get that before the weekend, it would be nice that, maybe during coffee on Sunday mornings, we could look at it or something.
Yeah, we'll try to get that tomorrow. I don't know, Marcia, that takes a little bit of work, but I think we can do that.
We can do it.
All right. Any other suggestions for Steve and Marcia to help us along how we want to look at things? No?
No, I don't have anything for them yet. I'm withholding my.
Totally off the cuff. I was trying to catch up with what everybody was saying, and I was like Googling what some of the stuff was in the facilities presentation, and I did find that the state of like Missouri got like a $1 million grant to combat some of that that EAB. And I was going to say has anyone checked in with the state of Connecticut to see if they give grants for, because they were talking about how that's been invasive and been a problem. Have we looked into talking to the state about possible grants to combat that if it's a known problem? And other states were giving grants to towns with certain levels of it. Has anybody checked into that?
I'm sorry, Brianna, EAVs? You mean invasive species?
Well, they were talking about, unless I completely
Emerald
misunderstood,
ash borer.
the emerald ash borer is EAB.
Yeah.
And the state of Missouri or Minnesota, they got a $1 million grant from the state to help each of the individual towns there with that problem. So maybe that's just something that maybe the DEP in Connecticut has a grant or has something like that, that if we showed due cause, we could get some money towards that and help with the budget. That's all. It was just
No, that's a good idea. We'll check that. The state usually comes out and tells us about grants, but we'll double check that.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like people don't always, like, you got to ask. I'm in the ask business.
Hey, Dan, before we go, can you talk more about your thought on the road paving? And so we're clear on that. So maybe Steve and Marcia can work to show us something.
Yeah, so just getting back to where we were on that, I think this is, again, just my personal opinion, that the best way to go on the paving versus the plow is to take the 115 out of the borrowing of the paving budget, apply that to the truck, and then just add the balance to additional bonding for the year. I think that makes the most sense to me. An additional 100 to the total $5 million 2-year bonding is not a big deal, and I think it's well spent. I'd hate to use the cash portion of the paving as a bank because we have to replenish.
Absolutely agree with you.
I do too.
I agree with you too. Yeah, we can do that. We'll just change the budget so you can see it when it.
Cool.
So, all right, I actually think we're all in agreement on that. So, I mean, if we could see it, I think it would help us visualize it totally. How's that?
We'll update it and then shoot out an updated budget tomorrow. It doesn't take long at all.
But Steve, can you do that? Because this has already gone through Board of Selectmen, right? So isn't it just has to be a Board of Finance adjustment?
We would put it in the Board of Finance adjustment.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
they could show us.
Yeah. Okay.
Like we do when we sit down next week. All right, add this, take this out, and see it live.
Yep.
What it does to the mill rate and the costs.
Thanks.
And I have one thing that I overlooked with the police budget for $4,400 that they had in their capital, but it was too small. So I was moving a number of things to their operating and I missed one for $4,400. So I would like to put that in as your column as well.
Okay.
I wasn't joking.
Why?
I'm just kidding.
Oh.
I got
accurate, and we're going to tell you if we make mistakes or there's miscalculations. We want it accurate.
I'm gonna have a little question. I got to do a little research on that box truck because I bought a few of them this year with lift gates, and I swear I'm getting them brand new for less than 60,000, and they want 60,000 for a used one. So but I'm gonna look into that.
Thanks.
I'll look into all the trucks at that point.
I mean, I think they would take a lower price. I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah, but if a new one costs less than that, I'm not sure why we're budgeting enough for a new one when he's asking for a used one.
Yeah, unless there's something different about it that we're not aware.
Exactly. That could be.
Diesel engine or who knows.
Right. But I got to pull my records. Like I said, I think I bought 3 or 4 this year. So
thanks.
I just don't remember them costing that much.
Okay.
For just for some information for when the Board of Ed presents to us next week, they're going to bring Paul Checo on to talk about the boys' locker room.
Good.
Yeah.
So we can have our questions for him ready ready. I had a conversation with them today. And Mark, he's open to some of your suggestions that you had suggested in the past. So I think we could have a good conversation.
All ears.
And if anybody has questions to feed back to the Board of Ed before next week's meeting, can you send them to me and I'll send it all over to Rosa?
Good. Eileen, I'm glad you brought that up because I don't know if we need a full presentation and we can't go line by line. I'd rather
Yeah.
have open conversations, like to have an open discussion on their needs. I don't know. Mark, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have line by line discretion anyways. So, I like the idea of they can tell us the major changes. They've really been doing a great job of keeping us up to date on what those are anyways. So, and I like what we did last year where we kept their contingency on our side. I think that worked well. So Eileen, I'd like to know if they're up for that again. I can't imagine they wouldn't be.
Okay.
But yeah, other than that, I just see a review more than an in-depth line by line like we have in the past.
Yeah, that's what I had thought too. I mean, more of an open conversation to see where they stand and where they're headed.
Yeah, and if there's anything that's 10% or 5, a number off of what they were, up or down, let's just talk about it quick. Get it right.
Eileen, you got that, Eileen?
I got it.
Perfect.
That's just me. You can ask everyone else.
Yeah, we're going to have our regular board meeting the following day anyway. So they're going to bring their financials to us then as well. So, Dan, how do you feel?
Sounds good. I think we're in the right direction.
Brianna?
Sorry, yeah. I'm having trouble with my computer. Sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I'm like, I don't know what I just did. Yes, I have no questions.
No, I was going to say about the Board of Ed, though, just a general conversation. We don't need an in-depth presentation line by line.
No, I agree. I actually I thought I was very happy with everything that they've been doing. So, I'm okay with that.
All right. Any other thing anybody want to bring up? Steve? No. Marcia?
Nothing.
All right. Mark?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Have a good night.
Good night,
Wait.
everyone.
We forgot public comment.
Comment.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
All right. So
We voted. Can I rescind my motion quick?
Yeah.
I rescind my motion. Let's take that back.
all right. Public
Sorry.
comment.
All right. I don't see any. Thank
Try it
you.
again.
I make a motion to adjourn now.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
bye.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right. Have a good night,
You
everybody.
too.
Good
Bye.
night,
Everybody.
Bye.